Today, Dave is going to show you how to mud and tape the basement finishing system.
So the first thing we'll do is apply a fiberglass mesh tape to the joint. This has a self-adhesive tape on the back side of it. Okay, so now we have our mud mixed up in our mud pan. And this is our joint setting tape, or joint setting compound. We're going to just simply apply a thin coat of this right over that tape. We're not worried about a perfect application because a lot of this we're going to scrape right off of here. Because we don't want to have to sand this. Now we are going to build this up a little more on the next step. At this point we have our fiberglass mesh tape embedded into our first layer of setting type joint compound. And what we're going to apply now is another layer of the, again, joint type setting compound. Okay, so at this point we have applied 2 coats of a joint setting compound. Now these compounds are more structural and they tend to really make the joint a lot stronger, and so that will resist any cracking. We've allowed 24 hours for this joint to dry, and the next step is putting on just a lightweight topping compound. There are several out on the market. You know, with enough experience you'll determine what your favorite is, but they all need to sand well. We're not going to sand this at all. We're just going to apply right over the top. As you can see, you know, we've applied this, you know, to somewhere about maybe 8 to 10 inches, you know, total across there, with the joint being right in the middle. What our ultimate goal is to have what appears to be a smooth area here with no, you know, abrupt hill or build up there. So on subsequent applications, we're going to move to applying this just a little bit farther out. We're going to float this out, is how you describe that, away from the joint, so that we can make whatever swale develops a little more gradual, because it's all about illusion. We want to create an illusion of smoothness. So, as I've mentioned before, I'm a pretty terrible drywaller, so I just put a lot on and then we're going to take it off. There will also be a certain amount of just bubbles that are created generally with the topping coats. So you may end up sanding this and getting a pretty good surface, but still have to go back and just sort of do a skim coat over the top to fill in the little craters that are left by the bubbles. Now a good drywaller would probably do this in seconds, but you and I will do it in minutes and ultimately end up with the same results. Now since this stuff sands pretty easily, you know, we can allow a certain amount of these little ridges to stay. It'll all work out in the end. There's a little mist down here. All right, so we'll walk away from that for a little while, allow it to dry. Let's give this maybe another 24 hours and we'll come back tomorrow and sand. So welcome back. It's been 24 hours and we're ready to sand this joint now. You know, everybody has their preferences. I like to use one of these flat hand drywall sanders. And I like to use this mesh type sanding paper. Just works better for me. There's no rules though. And then to finish things off, we'll use a sanding sponge, which is a nice way to feather out the edges and just blend everything together. Because again, what we're trying to do is create an illusion that you know, this wall is flat and that there's no joint here. I mean, the truth is there is one, but you won't see it once you're done here. That's the goal, to just not see it. So it's all about perception. So I don't think there's any hard and fast rule, but the idea is we're kind of going to sand across the joints like so. And if we make an X-shaped pattern here, it'll help us just keep the entire mud application flat. Whereas by contrast, if we were to sand up and down, as might be tempting to do, we could end up with a thin area here, and our wall could do a few curves like that. So the crosshatch 45-degree pattern is kind of a nice way to start. We're actually just going to use this sander to roughly create a smooth and flat surface. And I don't know if the video will show it or not, but there's an area right in here that's going to expose a lot of these little bubbly craters that happen as a normal part of the procedure. And before we prime and paint, we'll just go back over that with just a skim coat of the same easy sand top coat. And it'll fill all these little pores and potholes. Okay, so that completes the leveling part of our sanding process, and now we're going to move forward and we're going to just basically try to feather out the edges and do some blending. We'll touch up any weird spots that we can feel. This is where really feeling it is really helpful, because you won't see everything. It's kind of hard to see. It's like a real flat, non-reflective surface right now, so sometimes it's kind of hard to see what you might have. So trust your hands too. And we're just going to go over this really lightly and just smooth this entire area out. Don't stay in one place too long. Take your edges and just sort of make sure that there's a nice transition here, that you don't feel it too much. Well, you don't want to feel it at all, really. You don't want to feel a sharp change right here. We want to knock that down, and you know, the word is we're feathering this out because this should be like a little feathery edge. So look for that and keep going until you have it. And another thing I probably ought to point out, I'm not wearing personal protection equipment because I'm trying to talk to a camera right now, but you know, wear your dust mask, wear your safety goggles, because this dust, when you're doing a whole basement, it's going to get in your eyes and get on your eyebrows and your eyelashes. It's just no fun. So do use your PPE.
Thank you for joining us today on Wahoo with Dave. Be sure to like us on Facebook, share this video, and check out our latest photos on Instagram. Have questions or comments or ideas? Tweet us at WahooWalls1, and your idea might make the next video.